Molly Reichert. I am adjunct faculty at the University of Minnesota. I teach in the architecture department, and I specialize in digital design and fabrication.
My name is John Pederson, and I manage a web development company here called The Mighty Mo.
And we're here to share some secrets with you about how to survive the winter in Minnesota in 5 minutes.
You're all still here, so you all have your own strategy, obviously, because you survived. So congratulations. We want to share with you, I guess more specifically, how we survived this winter in Minnesota.
Congratulations.
So you all remember that? It's nice to be done with it, right? It was a long winter. Step 1.
Realize that the only way out is further in. So Minnesota winter, there's no way of avoiding it if you live here. You have to face it head on.
Or don't face it head on and just move. But we're gonna. One of the assumptions we have. No. One of the assumptions we have is we want to stay here. We want to figure out how to make winter here not only tolerable but awesome.
So you might have to shiver and get a good pout on. I'm sure you recognize this scene here.
It helps.
Yeah.
Step 4, start hallucinating and remember warmer times. So these are steps, but they're also just like natural processes that you'll just go through these steps. When you do, don't freak out. You're not doing anything wrong, okay?
Or you might have a faint, distant memory of a warm place in the winter. You have a memory of a place that you might have been when you were a kid, up at summer camp or at someone's cabin. And this place is called the sauna.
Step 6, start searching for that sauna here in the city. It's hard to find. You might end up at the YWCA, you might end up at a hotel room, but chances are it's not going to resemble that cozy memory that you just conjured of your cabin or Camp du Nord or wherever your first Northwoods sauna, traditional sauna experience was.
So this is where we arrived. John and I, we independently built mobile saunas and then met each other through that experience.
When you start building one, people say, do you know, people were saying to me for months, have you met Molly? I'm like, no. Who Molly who?
So we're going to tell you a little bit about these projects, the mobile saunas that we built. And we'll start out with the 612 sauna.
Yep. Started with a trailer. And I don't own a property. I rent. And didn't want to wait until I owned a house to build a sauna. It seemed like kind of a cop-out to me. So I built it on a trailer. Here's my trailer. Got on Craigslist. Started building. This is, I skipped quite a few slides here, as you can see. A few months later, I had a structure and a lot of work, a lot of time, but really a fun project. And I'm building it at the Hack Factory. I don't know if anybody knows that spot, but I don't own any tools. I also don't really know how to build, or didn't anyway. And the Hack Factory, not only do they have tools, but if you hang around long enough, somebody's bound to walk by and tell you, hey, did you know you're doing that wrong? And it just keeps you moving along. So eventually finished it, and there the sauna is heading down the street. This is on Cedar Avenue in Powderhorn, heading to my apartment. And there I am in my backyard. The sauna's parked there. And that's the 612, where the 612 sauna is at the moment. And it was there, I got it there by the time the polar vortex hit. So just in time.
So similar to John's sauna, rather than building up from a flatbed trailer, we built out a travel trailer. This is a 1967 Avion travel trailer that we found on Craigslist. We gutted it, and you can see here the interior. I'm sitting on one of the benches. There are a couple of different levels with two of my collaborators. The idea of these benches is that they create an ergonomic landscape that accommodates different body types and body positions. So you can kind of see the interior there. There's a wood-burning stove. It's crazy. It gets up to like 215 degrees. And it's really a unique kind of sweating experience. And then this is a view taken from the dressing room. You can see in what that space is like. So
this is how we survived this winter, was building our own saunas. And it's not a new idea. People have been, the Finns brought sauna to Minnesota a long, long time ago. It's how people have been actually literally surviving the winters here since before there was electricity. So we didn't do anything new here, but it's how people have been surviving winters here for a long time, and we think it's actually still a really great idea. And but it's one that unless you want to build your own, you're going to end up probably at a hotel room, and it's just not the same experience. So we're trying to figure out how can we make this more accessible? How can we share this resource and help Minnesota rediscover the sauna?
Mm-hmm. So we've come up with some ideas, and some ideas that make this project maybe more connected to this event. So one is CSS, Community Shared Sauna. So think like a sauna share investment, similar to community-supported agriculture.
We built two. We have two saunas already. We're just kind of using them in our own backyards, but we could build a few more. We could have a whole fleet by the time the snow flies next year. We could do it. It would take some more time and resources. We would need a few of you to show up and help us on build days, but it's possible, very possible.
And this is similar to the food truck revolution that has really taken up in the Twin Cities. Or kind of more looking at it from my lens, a design competition for design students or architecture students or architects or anyone really to kind of think about this from that lens and like really take a creative approach to designing different saunas.
Or, this is a technology conference, and there actually are saunas in the city. They're just really hard to find, and unless you know somebody who's got one, you're probably out of luck. So maybe we need an app for that, where if you want to share your sauna, I could have it on an app, and there's some logistics there to work out, but maybe it's more the answer is more figuring out how to better share the resources that already exist versus building something new. Or maybe that'd be a good place to start anyway before we build something new. This screenshot is from Josh's new app, Drop.
Thanks, John.
Just throwing some ideas out there. We'd love to talk with you about your ideas or what you might think of these ideas. And this is our contact information. If you'd like to learn anything more about either of our sauna projects, we're actually featured in the city pages this week. So you can pick up a copy and learn more about it. They're in the back, yeah.
Yeah, and the reason we wanted to come and talk to you guys, we actually work in a more related field than saunas, but we know that this is a crowd of people who come up with creative solutions to to problems. So we're just throwing it out there. Here's our contact info. Let us know if you have any ideas. We'd love to work with you. We'd love to talk with you. Thanks.
Thanks.
So excited about that idea.
So, super sorry I got stuck in the food truck line. But I wanted to throw out a couple of quick things about the lightning session. So 5 minutes. If you've got something that you want to talk about and you didn't approach me prior to this lightning session, pull me aside and over here. We'll write it up on the board. You can get your 5 minutes. We've still got some time at the end to do this for other people. I know we got another one on Heartbleed that we're going to do a little bit later. Who else do we have that's signed up for a session? Jamey, I know you're here. I'm going to talk a little bit. Who am I missing? Marty? Heartbleed? Okay. Anybody else want to step up, talk about something? Apostrophe? All right. We'll do it. Anyway?
Okay. On the shape of Minnesota.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. So that's that. I'm gonna try to keep it everything 5 minutes or less, so we can just really rattle off a whole bunch of ideas and just start thinking about some crazy stuff. So I forgot to introduce myself. I'm sorry. I'm Casey Helbling, founder of Software for Good. We're a small software design firm in downtown Minneapolis, or sort of north, or the Lowry Hill area, I guess. I'm going to do just a quick couple minutes. Put me on the clock. I want to talk about building a software team, or building a team around a culture and around an ethos and an idea, and trying to make that team something more than just a software team or just a design team. This is something we're doing at Software for Good. I basically sort of had an epiphany a few years back. I call it an epiphany. I don't know if it really was, but I had this moment where I was like, I want to do something more. I'm very fulfilled building software. It pays well. I love solving problems. I love the challenge of software, but I wanted something more. And I didn't really know, I didn't know where it came from, first of all, but I wanted to make the world a better place. I was like, okay, how can I build software and make the world a better place at the same time? And that's sort of where the Software for Good model came. One of the good things that's come out of this is that all of the teammates at Software for Good, we all have this sort of common core, this ribbon of an ethos within our group that we sort of answer all of our questions by. We come back to, we could be making some design decisions and be like, does this make the world a better place? Are you going to have happier customers by this design decision? So the idea is if you can align your core values and your core mission with your day job, you're going to be way more fulfilled. And I'm challenging you all to figure out within your organizations or wherever you're at how you can do that. Take small steps at first, have an opinion, talk to management if you need to make some changes, but make incremental changes and try to align what you're doing every single day for at minimum 8 hours a day typically with what you really want to have what you really want to see in the world, or maybe it's not even something like Software for Good, but maybe it's something different. So align those two and you'll be way happier, and that's all I have to say. So enjoy. Do you want to do Heartbleed now? Sure. Okay, we'll do this Heartbleed. It's Jeff. What was your last name?
Williams.
We got
Yeah, right here.
All right. Now this is the difficult part. Gotta get this right. All right. That way. Okay.
After Jeff, we'll have Jamey, and then Marty.
Woohoo! Oh, that sucks for you guys. Right. All right. Well, we'll just pretend that you guys can see it. So just like when I say something and those people are nodding, just nod as if it's going really well for you guys over there too. So the Heartbleed bug. How many people have heard about it? How many people know as much about it as they want to know? Okay. All right. Well, sorry for the two of you. You're not going to learn anything in this. I'm Jeff Williams. I work over at the University of Minnesota. One of the roles I have is I'm on a team that manages SSL certificates and issuance and reissuance of those certificates. So for any sites over at the U. So we've had a really fun last 3 days as hundreds and hundreds of SSL certs have had to be reissued because of an issue in a software library that's used for encrypting and protecting the data between you and a server. So I've got first pointer is over to this page. There's a great page, heartbleed.com, that explains for a techie level and a little bit less than techie level how it works, what's all involved, and what's the problem. There's a really great XKCD that shows exactly what goes on, and we're going to dramatize that by acting out the interaction between either an evil server and an evil client, or an evil client and an evil server. So one way or the other. And then there's this page where you'll be able to, where you can go to test the different services that you use to see if they're patched yet, to know if they've dealt with the issue and if they're now safe, so that you can go and like change your password and whatever you are going to do to make sure that you feel comfortable again. Because right now, like, everybody's freaking out, like the internet's broken, all the locks, you can't trust them. But it's not the case. Only some of the locks you can't trust, and you can actually check to see if the lock that you're trusting is trustable. If you trust these lock, the lock that they use, yeah. So if you trust their lock. So there's a little bit of fun in that. And here's the link. So let's go through this. So Casey is the server, and I am the evil client, and he's got passwords. He's got all your passwords. Let's say he's Facebook, for example, right? And we're going to talk SSL. So, hey, can I talk SSL with you?
Sure.
Oh, great. Hey, I was wondering, like, are we still talking securely? And can you tell me, 16 bits worth of, or bytes worth of additional memory?
Sure. Summer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's about it. Hey, so are we still talking securely? And can you give me like 60,000 bytes of memory?
Sure. And my social security number and everything else. And here you go.
All right. And then, do you mind if I keep asking you if we're still talking securely enough times until I get his password?
Sure.
Awesome. Okay, so I'll just keep doing that. So, hey, are we talking securely?
Yeah.
Oh, great. And can you give me some extra?
Sure. His social security number.
Oh, that's what I needed. Or, hey, I really want SSL cert. I want your private key. Do you think that maybe I'll?
No, I'm not going to give you that.
Okay. Oh. Are we talking securely? Can I have it?
Yeah, we're talking securely.
Awesome. Okay, so it's really, really bad, but that's just the client messing with the server, which is easy because servers are usually up all the time. So you can imagine people just doing things over and over and over a ton of times. The other is when the server is evil and you're on that page forever and you leave that tab open forever, and every time, and it could be doing evil things to you, grabbing stuff out of the memory of your computer. But the funny part is, hey, at the end, do you remember that I asked you anything?
No.
Oh, that's great. Did you log anything to your logs about this happening?
No.
So for 2 years, that interaction has been possible if people use a certain version of the OpenSSL library that's one of the libraries that's used by lots and lots of software programs to give you the feeling of safety when you see that little lock. There's a lot of people that aren't using that library, but the ones that were, it's a big problem for them. So go over to that sslabs.com/SSL test page. Test the sites that you use, and if they've got a rating like, like some of these have A's, and some of them have B's, some of them have F's. Like there's this whole list of the recent worst ones. If any of those are things you use, don't visit them until after they've gotten their act together, right? Because when you visit them, then your stuff is right at the top of their memory, and somebody else is going to visit and do this thing and get your password or other information that you don't want out there. So, for example, let's just do, what's the one for taxes in Minnesota? Like we want to do, like check and see if the state is okay. Or here, let's just go Facebook. Facebook.com. Submit. Ooh, A-. So, all right, they've fixed it. So it would be okay now if you wanted to go change your password so that you feel a little bit safer, you can do it. But if they had an F or something, just hold off.
Awesome.
So everybody's freaking out, and it'll be over in, well, this is over now, but the freak out will be over in about a week or so. People start to change their passwords and back to normalcy.
Thank you. Jamey's going to talk to us about being an astrophotographer.
In 5 minutes or less.
Don't miss anything.
All right, astrophotography, 5 minutes or less. Who in here has shot images through a telescope? Great, awesome. Peter, you just did it the other night for the first time, didn't you?
I'd done it before, but
Okay. Anyways, so this is something that I started doing a number of years ago. I grew up in the country. I used to look up at the stars all the time, and then I moved to the city and went to art school and forgot about all that stuff for a long time. And then had a moment, I ran my own little agency for about 8 years or so, and I got all caught up in that, and I was thinking about starting a family, and I'm like, oh God, I'm all stressed out, I need to just go outside and look at the stars. And all of a sudden I had this aha moment that I should and could be doing that again. So I started doing it and discovered, having been a photography minor, like thinking to myself, oh, this is going to be easy. I'm a photo minor, you know. It's really not that easy at all. And I'm very, very active on the Twitters and the Instagrams, and people email me all the time, how do you do that? Oh my God, I want to do it. And it usually results in like an 18-page email, over 3 or 4 different of those emails, just to kind of explain how to even get started. So I thought it would be fun to kind of cruise through this real quick. Step 1, get a telescope. These are the different kinds. There's more kinds than this. These are the kinds that I'm the most familiar with. There's refractors, which are really good for wide field view stuff. I'm trying to go too fast. There's the Schmidt-Cassegrain, which is what I have, which is really great for like planetary stuff. Oddly enough, I don't shoot really a lot of planetary stuff, so I'm kind of backwards. There's reflectors. Don't know a ton about them. They're great. Dobsonians, those are crazy, and those are like the really big ones that you find in observatories and stuff like that. So odds are you won't have one of those in your backyard. Step 2, get a camera. You can shoot with a DSLR. A lot of people do that. That's how I started. I had a little 5D. I'd hook it up. You do something cool like this. You get a little adapter. You take off the lens that actually makes it look cool, and you put this dumb little nozzle on it, and then you strap it up to a massive lens, and it looks way cool again. So you can do something like that. Or you can get a CCD, which I jumped into almost immediately because, like I said, as a photo geek, I started to realize that an SLR with opening and closing shutters and bouncing stuff around on the mirror, I start to lose the amount of light that's coming through. And at the end of the day, to really simplify this thing, say something is 100 million light years away and I'm trying to shoot a picture of that. That light is very, very, very faint. So let's eliminate all the mess and get a CCD. A little piece of plastic slides out of the way, and there's my chip right there. So if I move that piece of plastic on my own, I'm directly exposing the chip to all of the external elements. So you have to be very, very careful with them. When you hook it up, it looks a lot like that, which is pretty awesome. Step 3, get some other shit. Goodbye paycheck. This is I'd say 70% of what I use right now. This I did last year. So I've got my regular scope, my guide scope. I've got 2 cameras. I've got a series of Barlows and focal reducers. I try to control it as much as I can with my iPad from the inside where it's warm, with a whole massive ton of cables that don't even allow my back patio door to close all the way. All up into my little MacBook that I use right here. And oddly enough, aside from this presentation, astrophotography is really the only thing I use this for, which is kind of fun. So that's kind of what my rig looks like. This was shot in the winter of 2012, right after I got my guide scope and had shoveled a place to put my telescope. Acquiring images. This is the part where it gets really, really tricky. You just assume, oh, I push the button, there it is, I have a picture. These things are so faint you can't even see them with your eyes. A lot of times you can't even see them through your telescope. So you have to do something like take light frames. Doesn't this look sexy? You take 3 to 8 hours of 6 to 8 minute exposures or something like that. You take hundreds of these sorts of things and you get something that looks really cool like this. Then you take something called a dark frame, which literally is nothing but the inside of the lens or the cover that goes over your telescope. You do this to essentially extract out the noise that's built up over the top of the little CCD on your chip. There's electromagnetic noise, and you want to remove that from your images, otherwise you get an image that looks like you took it in the dark with one of those throwaway snappy cams. And then you take flats, slightly sexier than the previous 2 images because at least there's something on the screen. This you usually turn the scope back towards your house, try to get some flat light. This will take out all the dust and all that sort of stuff. I'm way oversimplifying this, but you get it. So step 5, pre-processing. Take all that stuff, jam it together. There's proper ways to do that. Then you get an image that looks like this. Again, not very sexy. There's tons and tons and tons of data in this image though, but like what you actually see is nothing. But then once you do a little bit of stretching, you start to get something that looks like this. And then once you do a few more processes, you start to get fast forward through about 3 days worth of other tinkering and tweaking and finessing and all this sort of stuff. Then you get something that looks like this. So this is the Andromeda Galaxy. All of that information is in here. It just takes some work. Like this is literally, this image and this image are the same, minus some tweaks in some software that is called PixInsight. PixInsight is like a whole operating system for your computer just for doing this. I'm going to go real fast, get fancy. You can start doing stuff where you take different color spectrums. This is O3 filter, this is regular RGB, and then you combine it to get something cool that looks like that. This is stretched, of course, but you get all sorts of color wash, but then once you combine and process it, you get much better images like this. You do RGB, and then you combine it, it looks like that. When you process it a little bit more, it looks like that. RGB of Jupiter, combine it, you get something that looks cool like that. This is just a cool image that my buddy took recently when I was outside trying to take a picture of the same thing. He went outside, did it too, sent me this. Mine sucked, his was awesome. He's also out in rural South Africa, so that helps. But this is another image. I'm in the middle of Minneapolis, so this is another image that he shot recently. That is from 3 nights ago. My buddy Mick in the UK shot that image of Mars at opposition. Here's another image Mick shot of the entire Orion constellation. So if you look up and see Orion's belt, this is actually what it looks like in all those different light spectrums. There's a picture I shot of the moon with my friend's 9-year-old kid. There's my best picture of Jupiter. This is a great example. This is my very first shot of the Orion Nebula itself. This was about 3 months after I got my telescope. This was last year. So practice makes better. Perfect is not a term we use in this hobby, but practice makes better. And then the final step is get outside and have some fun, and then that's how you can get a hold of me if you want to talk about this more, because there's way more to know than just that. So.
All right.
Very well done.
Marty.
I don't have any slides, so just have to look at me in the dark. If that's all right.
All right.
You guys are in the light. The name of this is Spike Lee Deserves to Be on Kickstarter 2. Does anybody disagree with that statement? That Spike Lee deserves to be able to kickstart his new film, just like anybody else can go on Kickstarter. You disagree?
Yeah.
Why do you disagree?
Why Spike Lee would use it?
Why should he be able to use it?
No, I think he should not be able to use it.
And why?
Because I think Kickstarters I guess I feel the same way about some local, like, established businesses that are using it to, like, remodel, for example. They already have a business, they already have they're not creating anything new, and they already have a way to make money. It's called the business that they already started. So
For-profit business,
yeah.
Why would you need Kickstarter?
Yeah.
So I want to get back to that. Anybody else feel kind of the same way? Just, it's okay. Okay. How many people have backed a Kickstarter campaign in here? Okay. Leave your hand up if you backed a successful Kickstarter campaign that actually, okay. Shout out some rewards that you've gotten for backing the Kickstarter campaigns that were successful.
Drone picture of Minneapolis.
Drone picture of Minneapolis?
Yeah.
The product that was crowdfunded, right?
Solar powered flashlight.
Okay, cool. Use one of those. Did anybody back a Kickstarter project that was successful and not get a reward? And what was the situation? It was a film?
Yeah, it was a movie that I knew.
Okay. But were you able to go see the film and
I don't know.
you don't know?
It was in New York. I don't know if it's possible.
Okay. Well, the nature of Kickstarter is that it's rewards-based, and there are other crowdfunding platforms, but Kickstarter requires that you offer rewards in exchange for the backing of the project. And what I believe that Spike Lee does deserve to use Kickstarter just like the rest of us, because he did. He crowdfunded his next film. He raised 7 figures crowdfunding his next film on Kickstarter. And there were a bunch of people that came together and collectively put 7 figures worth of money toward him. But I believe the reason for that is the rewards, right? So Spike Lee has money, sure. I believe he kickstarted his film because he wanted the creative freedom. He didn't want to necessarily take money from the people who might affect his creative vision. But he had this long, long list of rewards on his Kickstarter page. He was just emptying his closet, all this stuff from his vaults, from signed things from his old films, and like signed scripts and posters and 40 Acres and a Mule, bumper stickers and all these things. Now, all the people that came together for that crowdfunding campaign felt it was worth it to both help Spike Lee get his film made, but also get the reward. Some of the other rewards, you got to go to an exclusive screening, that you could only go to if you backed the film. So maybe you got to see it before anybody else did. But the rewards were the key. So there were people that say, why is Spike Lee crowdfunding? Why is he on Kickstarter? Well, there were people that thought the rewards were worth it. This is not equity crowdfunding. So typically, a business, well, if I invest in this business, maybe I get some equity in the business. You're not getting any equity on Kickstarter, but you are getting rewards. I helped the Travail restaurant Kickstarter campaign that happened last year, and it was at the time the highest raising restaurant campaign in the history of Kickstarter. And there were some people that were on Twitter saying, why is Travail a for-profit business? They had closed their original smaller space and they were trying to open a new space. Why are they on Kickstarter? They should just be able to do this. Well, what they were offering was, they were offering a chance to have your name written on the wall in the new space for $10. They were offering this, what they called the sexy chef calendar, where they all posed in sexy poses in a calendar for 2014. And some people thought that was kind of fun. But at the real meaningful levels, you were invited to come to the soft opening where you got free food. Or you were invited to come and sit at the chef's table for, I think it was like $1,200, but you got to sit at the chef's table, and all the food, of course, was paid for. So you were kind of paying in advance for food. And another really interesting one was Travail had notoriously long lines, and they don't take reservations. You could actually buy in on the level and get a reservation at a place that didn't have reservations. So it wasn't a monetary value thing, but it was the value of time. And so I'm just curious, because I firmly believe that crowdfunding can be used for all manner of projects. Venture-backed companies can crowdfund. There was a company called Occipital that crowdfunded something called Structure Sensor, which attached to your iPad and lets you 3D scan any room. And that was a venture-backed company. But people wanted that structure sensor in advance. And they were able to support the project and have it be the reward, that they would get it when it was ready. So I know my time is up, but does anybody want to counter what I'm saying quickly, or ask a question about why in a rewards-based crowdfunding situation, certain people, it's still not right for certain projects, as long as some people out there feel the rewards are correct?
My one question is isn't there something about they don't necessarily have to give you the reward or something? Like, you might not get the reward?
Well, it's certainly possible that some projects never complete. Even with the money, your credit card is deducted, and they run with your money, and then they never fulfill. So that's the risk in that situation. But if you're your own best judge. Do you think that they're trustworthy, and do you think the reward is worth it? Spike Lee or Zach Braff or whomever. I've been shocked at some things in the media that have said it's a donation thing. Why would you donate to a for-profit business, or why are you subsidizing a for-profit business? And I think it boils down to the rewards, and I think it's just a very interesting new space that can be explored in a lot of ways if people open up their minds to just sort of the project getting off the ground. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. You ready?
John, I need you to enter your password. Okay, well, welcome to Bargain Stock Funds. How many of you invest in stocks through a mutual fund or an ETF? Quite a few of you. Okay, then this is for you. And how many of you are value investors in the tradition of Benjamin Graham or Warren Buffett? A few of you. Great. Okay, so Bargain Stock Funds profiles over 10,000 stock mutual funds and ETFs. And what's different is that the focus is on the value perspective. If you want to find out which stock funds have the lowest price to book ratios, the lowest price to cash flow multiples, the lowest PE ratios, this is the site for you. And so there is a fund search engine that allows you to search, to set your criteria and search for the right stock funds. Or there are some pre-assembled lists, like a list of all the Vanguard funds in terms of price to cash flow, price to book, expense ratio, and so on. So let's go into the search engine, and by default it shows only no-load funds, and there are over 7,400 of them, which goes to show how dumb loaded funds are. I'm surprised that they aren't completely obsolete by now. So you can add conditions. So let's add in let's add in for the biggest position. Let's limit our search to funds that have no more than 2% in any one stock. Okay, and then this narrows, we've got 1174 funds. So here's a list of all the well-diversified funds sorted by price to cash flow ratio, and you'll see that Japan and emerging markets and China seem to be the cheapest funds. You can also sort by price to book ratio. And so again, Japan, emerging markets, China, those are the cheapest. And you'll find that US stock funds aren't very well represented among the cheapest funds. So, and then you can also you can click on the fund to profile it for more information. Here's one that I'm invested in, the Wisdom Tree Japan Small Cap Dividend Fund. And you can see all the valuation multiples, turnover rate, expense ratio, and so on, as well as links to more information from Yahoo and Morningstar. And well, are there any funds you'd like to see information on? Anyone?
VFINX.
VFINX, okay. Simple VFINX. Okay, Vanguard Index 500. Okay, it's a $165 billion fund, so it's definitely one of the biggest ones. And price to cash flow ratio 7, average price to book 2.26, average PE 16. Biggest position, 2.8% of the portfolio. Let's hope that's not the next Enron. Anyone else? Anyone else want to see a fund?
Jason, is it publicly available online?
Yes. Bargainstockfunds.com is the website. And it's updated every night. It uses a Ruby gem that scrapes the Yahoo Finance website every night for information. And the site uses Ruby on Rails, of course.
So the things that this does differently, that it's computing that normally you wouldn't see on a page like Yahoo, are is the PA over CF and the price to book ratio, right?
Yahoo Finance does have that information, but it doesn't do as well at giving you a list of all the criteria to search for. For example, if we go back to the original list from Yahoo Finance, you're not really going to get something like this. Here you can easily see what the cheapest funds are.
All right, that's time. Jason, thank you.
All right.
Eric? I think Jason's also presenting another one of his projects. Is it later today, or have you already?
Already presented it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Doppler value investing.
All right, my name is Eric Darling, and I am an entrepreneur, and I want to talk to you about the value of sharing your idea, the shape of Minnesota. So in order to illustrate this to you, I'll go through the life cycle of the current product that I'm developing, from the idea and the learnings that I've done through that. If you look, if you look at this, the state of Minnesota, the shape, I'll do a drawing, kind of looks like that. Horrible drawing, I know I'm not a designer. It has a flat bottom and a pointed spout. So my buddy said, hey, we should make mugs. And I said, we should make mugs. If you look at the state of Minnesota, it looks just like a pitcher. So obviously I was like, oh, I gotta, hold this to myself. I can't share this idea with anyone. But then I've learned over the course of doing a couple ventures that there is value in sharing your idea. So I did. I shared my idea, and I thought, a pitcher is the way to go. And so I started talking to people saying, hey, I'm going to make this really cool mug. It's a shape of Minnesota, and they're like, or this very cool pitcher. And they're like, I don't really use a pitcher. And I went to the bars. I went to the bars, and they're like, yeah, we have like 10 pitchers, but we got 100 mugs. And I'm like, I should make mugs shaped like the state of Minnesota. And so then I went to Startup Weekend, I pitched this idea, we did some 3D prints and kind of shaped the design, and then everyone's like, you should do glass. I'm like, all right, I'll go do glass. And so then I tried to do glass, and you should see the model. It is very difficult to work with glass, it's very expensive, especially if it's a mug shaped like the state of Minnesota. You want it made in Minnesota, right? So that was going to be cost prohibitive, and so then I continued to share my idea, and I met a guy at Coco, and he said, oh, I used to do slip casting. I'm like, slip casting? And he said, yeah, slip casting. And what slip casting is it's using liquid clay. And what you do is you make a mold, and you pour liquid clay into it, and then you can dump it out, and you can make any custom shape, and it's very repeatable. And so I thought, that's a great idea. So then I found a mold maker, and then I got feedback some more, and then I made a mug. And so I have the first ever Minnesota mug, or what I call it the soda pitcher, S-O-T-A pitcher. And so it's a ceramic mug made right here in the state of Minnesota, but I think it can get better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Kickstarter, and I'm going to get some more feedback, and I need people's support to help me make these and get these in the hands of Minnesotans everywhere. So on the theme of Kickstarter, that is where I'm at. And this is far different than the shape you see, or the model or the idea that I had in my head. But I tell you, getting this feedback, I think I made something pretty cool. And I was always afraid of sharing my idea, but I am a firm believer that people's feedback and getting your idea out there will help you refine your ideas and really make something cool. So our Kickstarter launches next week, and if you're interested, I can get your email and let you know when we launch. So thank you guys very much for your time.
You or others want feedback on your creations. May 2nd and 3rd at the Inventors Congress is designed precisely for that kind of a circumstance.
Right.
And so take a look at it.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks, Lois. Yeah, there was immense value, and so thank you for letting me kind of pitch my Kickstarter idea, but share the value of sharing your idea. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. Was there anybody else that wanted that have anything?
This is a rerun stuff.
That's okay.
Okay. Does anybody have I think I left my mini display port to VGA in the last place I had my machine plugged in. Somebody have it? Clearly, our throwing and catching skills are in the same league. I write software, by the way. Yeah, physical things freak me the heck out. All right. This is a rerun from when there was a kind of some competition to make the lightning talks as short as possible. So this is a 70-second presentation. See if I can still pull it off. Are we live? Yes. It's on when to put an apostrophe in the word "it's," right? So, thank you. So the first question is, why do we care? Languages change. Languages don't really have rules per se. And apostrophe usage is something that's changing in English right now. But first of all, there is cultural value around standard written English, and if you are in a circumstance where you are speaking it, then breaking the rules of apostrophe costs you credibility. It makes you look stupid. And second, I am a programmer. I like the aesthetics of consistency, and there are actually some rules about apostrophes when we're speaking standard written English that make things consistent when we follow them. So there's value in aesthetics, and there's value in making yourself perceived as intelligent, respectful, and so forth. So the question is, when do you put an apostrophe? I'm going to teach you to do it really fast. It's not so hard. Don't worry about possessive and plural, and just think, what if it were a person? In a sentence where you want to use the word it, what if it were a person? So just look at this, consider its implications. Like in that sentence, consider its implications. Should I put an apostrophe in it or not? Well, what if it were a person? I would say consider his implications or consider her implications. Would there be an apostrophe in that? No, that top one looks clearly wrong. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. It's consistent. If I wouldn't use an apostrophe with his or hers, I wouldn't use it with its either. What about it's going to rain? Well, it doesn't really matter that people don't rain. I can still say he's going to rain or she's going to rain, right? That bottom one is obviously wrong. It's going to rain has an apostrophe. Consider its implications does not have an apostrophe. Now you know. The more you know, the better your life will be. If you want to read a really interesting argument on why we should or shouldn't care about these sort of things, I highly recommend Authority in American Usage in the book Consider the Lobster by David Foster Wallace. Unlike my talk, it's long, but it's worth your time. Thanks.
Who else? Somebody's got to have something. Anybody? Who's working on a project? Somebody's got to be working on something interesting and they want to talk about it. Sir?
I don't talk about it. I'm just raising my hand.
Fair enough.
No, we want to talk about the details of why would we put 1 million files in an immature syncing platform. It's kind of boring. Yeah, sure. Don't allocate your buffers before you do your file reads if you're going to stack up file reads.
Yeah, we got one more, real quick.
Completely unprepared. Working on a project for the last couple months. You guys probably heard of stuff like repeatability and virtualization. It's kind of more of a nerdy talk. The general theory that I've been working on is I really want software separate from my hardware. There's no particular reason for software to be tied to what it's running on. So my long-term goal, right, is to play Ring Around the Rosie with my software development group and not notice that I changed laptops, right? I want to be able to be like, all right, change, kind of like a children's game. Sit down on my buddy's laptop, log in and say, hey, exactly the same software is running. Everything is the way I expected, and not have some crazy mishmash of all this management around multiple computers. Because we're a multi-diverse or a multi-device ecosystem now. We've got phones, we've got laptops, we've got desktops, we've got tablets, we've got Google Glass. The number of devices that you're aware of and interact with on a daily basis is going up, and it's going up exponentially. And that's not going to change. And the idea that we've got all these software platforms that really didn't design for this or didn't really care about this or just were straight up not prepared to manage your digital life through multiple systems, we're going to encounter ongoing problems. And so the development ecosystem's reaction has been a lot of like containment virtualization, right? So a lot of the devs in the room probably heard of VirtualBox. You probably heard of Vagrant that kind of scripts VirtualBox. You probably heard of the new stuff like Docker that's working around like Linux C groups. And all these things are building containers to hold your software in. So the Docker is actually based around like a shipping container, right? You throw your stuff in a Docker, you can bring it around, you can tar it, you can bring it to another machine. That's great, and it gets you software that runs on more than one computer, and you can actually get the same thing working on 2 computers at once, which is unheard of, right? But it's not the whole way. It's attacking the symptom and not the cause. And the cause is we didn't design software to truly not care about what kind of hardware you're on or where you are or how many different types of the hardware you're running on. So I've been working on a tool with a couple friends of mine. It's called Root, HRoot. It's kind of like CHroot, but it's based around Docker and adds some simple transports to it. So the idea is if you can figure out what you need to run your software, throw that in Git. Turns out Git's already pretty good at binary diffs and all that stuff. Turns out to be faster than Docker for distributing its file system. And you kind of eliminate the works on my machine problem. You can actually go clone down everything you need. And the long-term goal is eventually I'll get a repository out there, right? I write some code. It's in Ruby on Rails, and that'll be useful until about next Tuesday, right? When literally anyone on the planet decides to change how Rails work, or Flask, or any of these other frameworks, right? It's all fundamentally changing. But I can say, hey, at this point, with this file system, with these copies of whatever, Python, Flask, Ruby, Java, whatever, it works. So in 2040, when you go clone my code, because I did something useful that you want to reuse, you can clone down all the code that I wrote and the entire system that it runs on. So you have a fundamental guarantee that, hey, everything about the developer is the same when I go get it a decade from now. So if you're interested, it's out on Polygon, github.com/Polygon. Working on a couple tools. It's kind of in like not aggressively broken stage right now, but we're working on making it better. And if you're curious about kind of repeatability and attacking the software versus hardware split, give me a ring and we'll see what we have to say. So thank you.